Hey, welcome to the Moto Academy Members Podcast episode 4, where we dive deeper into the world of motocross and the life of the Moto Academy community. This time I'm hosting this podcast. My name is Christian Geloof, and in this episode I have a fascinating discussion with MarkTwoFour. As in the previous episode, this episode is again cut up in parts of about half an hour. Whether you're a TMA member or just curious about motocross, this podcast could be for you. Sit back, relax, and join us on the journey as we learn more about the life of each of the members. If you like the podcast, please give the thumbs up. Let's get started. This is part 2 of episode 4.
Let's go.
Okay. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Welcome.
Been good.
It's a funny story.
So, yeah, it was really strange. And
So, what was then the first bike that you bought?
so my first ever bike, and I look back on it now and I just think I was crazy. I bought a 380cc two-stroke.
Yeah. Okay.
And my friends who had ridden before were like, you must be crazy.
And what kind of the brand?
KTM.
KTM. 380. I thought they
380cc. Yeah, because I think they did a 360.
Yeah.
But this was a 380. You didn't see many of them around.
No, exactly.
Probably a good reason for that, because they were just crazy.
A little bit too scary, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I got on with it because I hadn't ridden before. I knew no different.
Okay.
It was kind of the type of thing where you had to literally jump on the kickstart to start it because the compression was so heavy.
Yeah, 380. I know that is.
Yeah, so
you have to
looking back on it now,
feel it a few times, and then
you're
on the right
top
spot.
dead center. Yeah, and I think at one point I did where you had to jump on it so hard. I think where the kickstart goes onto like the spline, I had worn it away because I had to jump on it so hard, it just wore out. But yes, that was my first bike. But yeah, I never went back to mountain biking after that.
And that's more that you're more hooked on the speed, or what was it? Or
I don't know, really.
It was a little bit hidden, maybe from the past or something.
Yeah, I don't know really. Because I didn't really race much initially. I just did a lot of practicing. And then I think I kind of just liked just the being around different riders, getting covered in mud and all that sort of stuff. And it just with the noise and things, it just felt a bit more like it gave you a bit more satisfaction. And like mountain biking was great, but it was so quiet. There was no noise. And it was kind of like you did a 2-minute run and then that was it.
Yeah, it is. That is a little bit with mountain biking, and especially if you go downhill, then it goes very fast, and you're down.
Yeah, you didn't. Looking back on it, you didn't really get much riding in.
No,
because like I say, it was so quick.
Okay, but how long ago did you start riding then that motocross? And what age am I thinking?
I think I was probably around 17, 18.
Oh, okay.
So it was quite late on, because like I say, I had no interest really. And then a lot of my friends that I did mountain biking with, they also ended up with bikes. And then there was, it kind of took off from there really.
So there were more of your friends also switching to motocross, in fact.
Yeah, they kind of, a few of them kind of went between both. But then a lot of the tracks that we used for mountain biking kind of disappeared because there was a lot of issues with like land being sold, and there wasn't the tracks like there used to be. Motocross became a little bit more accessible.
Okay.
But we do find now that the motocross tracks are getting a little bit like what the mountain biking did, is particularly with the noise. A lot of people don't like the noise.
Yeah.
So we've unfortunately in this area we have lost a lot of circuits because of noise issues and things like that.
Okay.
Which is a shame,
so you have that also in your region. Yeah, I think that's everywhere. That is the talk of everywhere, I would say.
And I think the problem is where we are, it's such a nice place to live. You do get a lot of like people that live in the city. They like to come to the countryside because it is
quiet.
nice, refreshing, and quiet. You know,
And then they
when
were
there's
in motors.
exactly, yeah. But you know, when my dad used to ride, you know, you wouldn't ride the same track twice in a whole season. Whereas
Oh,
now,
wow.
you know, we have to go back to the same tracks, unfortunately. But
Yeah. Okay. Now, since we're talking about bikes, it is then the obvious question that I ask everybody, and it's always a touchy thing, eh? But okay, here we go. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, or electric?
oh, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? So obviously, I started on 2-strokes.
Yeah.
And I got on with them okay. You know, had no problem. And I think my Moto touched on this on his podcast, is that everyone kind of seemed to go to 4-strokes. So
Correct.
you kind of felt like, okay, I think we need to go, and that's the way that's going forward.
Okay.
I tried a friend of mine's 4-stroke, and since then my dad said at the time, okay, your lap times are quicker on the 4-stroke.
Yeah.
So I naturally then thought, okay, maybe 4-stroke's the way to go. So yeah, and I think I've been on 4-stroke since, when did I get the first one? Probably must have been around 2005, something like that.
Okay, so that is really a long time already.
Yeah.
And what's then the first 4-stroke that you start driving after, I don't know how many 2-strokes?
So my first one was a 250F Honda.
Okay.
I had that bike for a long time. It was really nice, really just, you know, it ran well, it rode well. And yeah, just really enjoyed it.
Okay. And you're still on a 250, or you switched already?
Yeah, no, so I've gone up to a 350 now.
Okay.
So I've been on a 350 for 3 years now.
Okay.
I found the 250, because I'm quite tall.
Yeah.
I found the 250 just didn't have quite enough power. But I didn't want to go 450.
No, why? You think it's too much?
Yeah, a few of my friends have got them, and I kind of asked around and looked on the internet, and a lot of the talk was that they are just a little bit too much.
Okay, so the 350, that is a KTM or a Scavan?
Yes, yeah, KTM, yeah.
KTM.
Yeah, and I just find that it's very much, and I say this to people, it's very much like a twist and go type bike. So a lot of the tracks that I ride, put it to third gear, and it'll go everywhere in third gear.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's nice to ride.
Did you ever had the opportunity to ride electric?
I haven't.
Okay.
There are actually, I think, about 3 or 4 guys that have them at the events that I take part in. And it is really strange to ride with them.
Yeah. You cannot hear them, huh?
Yeah, I think I'd like to have a go, but I don't know if it's something that I would race on.
Okay, yeah, so you say for the racing, it's maybe not a bike.
Yeah, and I think it is, until you get more electric bikes, I do feel it's a little bit dangerous with them riding with normal engine bikes.
Yeah, mixed up. Yeah, I agree.
So it's just I think it's just where and I think I saw a YouTube video of there's an American rider called Jeff Walker, I think he's called, and he had a big crash not so long ago. Did you see it on YouTube?
He goes to the inside, and the other guy goes in, and he says, "Yeah."
Just didn't hear him.
Yeah.
And I think about things like that, and I just think, it's a little. I think something needs to happen for them to ride with like the noisy bikes, if that makes sense.
Okay. No. Hey, good. I think you answered the next question automatically, so we can go over that. Was there ever a break in your motocross time that you rode?
Not really since I started. I had a couple of years where I didn't really race much. I just did the odd practice. It probably wasn't until kind of I think it was around 2014 that I kind of took it a bit more seriously again.
Okay.
But yeah, and the only other time I've had a break is if like I've been injured or anything like that. But yeah, I haven't really had any kind of walk away moments, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Then I think we touched upon the following question as well already a little bit, because you were explaining about your daughter
Yeah.
that is going to do. Is there any other relative that is riding, or other than your father and uncle?
Yeah, no, they haven't ridden for a number of years.
Yeah, okay. They're a
So
little bit
yeah, there's
older
no
than you.
one else in my family that kind of do it. I do
Okay.
have an older sister, but yeah, she's always like, she was a little bit like me. She's always followed it.
Yeah.
And she used to always come to watch, but yeah, they've never had no interest in kind of riding.
Yeah, okay. I think that is also a little bit your age. That is still, it was not really a thing for girls, right? Also,
Yeah, no, it's
I
it's
think,
a shame really that you don't see more girls doing it. I think.
well, I can tell you on the tracks where I drive, I see more and more girls. So it
Oh,
is
really?
really getting a little bit quite popular here
Yeah,
compared to how many girls that we saw before, so to say,
yeah.
10 years
There's a
ago.
few in the series that I do.
Yeah.
There's a few that ride more young. There's a lot of. I've noticed there's a lot of younger girls, like
Hmm.
sort of like 8, 9, 10,
Oh, yeah,
giving
okay.
it a go, which is that's really really good to see. And they are putting it to the boys, which is like really
That's
really
nice.
good to see.
Yeah.
So
I think at that age, uh, the strength is the same.
yeah,
I think
definitely.
that is more if we go into the age of maybe 15, 16 and older, then there is a difference between the default strength a boy has and a girl has,
Yeah,
and then probably the boys probably go a little bit faster because they just
yeah.
can manhandle the bike a little bit better. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I mean, when you watch like the GPs of the women doing the world GPs and things,
yeah,
they're they're just so quick, and so
of course,
their bike skills are exactly the same.
yeah.
It's
I listened to the last podcast of AJ, and he was talking. What is his name? Or lately he's doing together with. I have to look it up.
I can't think of his name now.
Yeah.
I think I know who you mean. Yeah,
Huh? You know who I mean?
yeah, I think I know who you
Oh,
mean, but I can't.
terrible that we do not know his name. Now we have to have a few more podcasts. Then we know your name. Terrible. Oh, we're so bad. No, we are really diehard fans. Not.
Yeah,
But he was telling for the so many times. He was saying, yeah, I think a girl could also just be on top because
yeah,
they were talking about riders, saying skinny riders. So yeah, they do not have so much muscle, but they also ride in the top 10. So
yeah,
why could a girl not do that?
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
discussion
definitely.
for the so many times. So I tend to agree on that perfectly because yeah, if you have good riding skills, yeah, do you really need a lot of power?
Yeah, and kind of like AJ talks about it quite a bit, is where it's like
Yeah,
you don't need to go like balls out.
yeah,
You go faster by going slower.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So you don't need to be going flat out. If you've got that technique and you can flow,
exactly.
then and I think that's where women do better because they don't have that like mentality where I've got to go, I've got to win, I've got to, whereas maybe a guy would.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
they're a bit more, dare I say it, a bit more level-headed than that. I'm getting my brownie points in here.
Let's not cut this, as
Yeah,
AJ says.
yeah. Director's note, leave that in.
Okay. Is there a crash in that you say, okay, that was my worst crash? I wish that did not happen,
Um,
or you were
I don't
lucky.
think I've had many big ones, but the little ones I've had. So I had probably my worst crash that led to my worst injury.
Okay.
About 5, 6 years ago now, I crashed in one of the first races, and My front wheel just washed, and
Oh
I
yeah.
went down, and I think the bike came over and landed on my leg. I got up, thought I just had like a dead leg. It was a bit sore, so I carried on.
Yeah.
Did race 2, and I said to my dad, something's not quite right. It doesn't
Oh
feel
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Did race 3, and it was really hurting. And then I think 2 days later, my wife was like, "Your leg doesn't look great. You need to go to the hospital."
So it went big or something?
Yeah, it swelled up really bad. It basically turned out I fractured I want to get this right, my fibia
Okay.
just below my knee.
Okay.
So I'd actually rode the whole day on a broken leg. But I think in my mind, I was like, if I broke my leg, you'd know about it. You wouldn't
Yeah,
be able
you
to
would feel it,
stand.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it just felt like I had just given myself a dead leg.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was out of action for, I think it's about 8 weeks. So yeah, it was quite
still,
yeah, so that was, and it wasn't a big crash, but it was kind of like slow and quick, if that makes sense.
yeah, just
But
unlucky, I would say, huh? Because
yeah, and I've still got the GoPro footage of it now, and I can't quite see if the bike landed on me and did it, or whether, because I was stuck underneath the bike for a bit,
yeah,
or whether someone rode over my leg. It all happened so fast. It's so
exactly.
hard to.
Yeah, and maybe the bike was already on and somebody drove over the bike. You do not know.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then, puff, it does that, huh?
Yeah, and it just, like I say, it happened. It happened so quick.
Yeah,
Um,
that's most of the
um,
time with these things, huh?
yeah,
Split
so
second
that's kind
memory.
of like the worst one I've had, really.
Okay. Well,
But I
still,
generally, like, touch wood, I've been really lucky.
okay.
So
Yeah, me too. But I also think um, that I was telling my moto that as well. Yeah, if you're a little bit like that, you're riding on the edge, you will learn faster. But
yeah,
also, yeah, you have the flip side of that. And for me, I think I'm a little bit not too much. So
yeah,
your learning is also slower, I think.
yeah, and I think I'm getting more like that now, where I'm kind of like, I've got to go work Monday.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to risk it like that anymore.
exactly. Yeah.
Because when you've got a family and things like that, and you've got like other commitments, it's
Yeah, also on
yeah,
your work, you want to not yeah.
it's so that's kind of like what I'm trying to focus more on, like the Motor Academy training now, is to figure out that I can go slow, but as long as I get the technique right,
Yeah.
really my speed shouldn't be affected, if that makes sense.
And
So
be a
rather than
safer
just
rider in that respect. That's
exactly,
what you say. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Okay. I think a lot of people in the Moto Academy have this goal, what you say, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, and I think at first, when I first joined, when I heard that, I was like, it doesn't make sense. Like, how would slowing down make you go faster?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
my
the
moto was
more,
telling exactly the same.
yeah,
That's
and
funny.
it's like a mental thing, isn't it? Like you trying to convince yourself to slow down, um, and then, like I say, then you get your corners right and you get your lines right, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, okay, and it's less effort, so you're not getting your arm pump, you're not getting tired.
Exactly, yeah. That
Um,
is the difference. If you have your good flow, then indeed your
mhm.
arms do not do
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
can,
definitely.
yeah, I can tell you that I had a friend who has been doing motocross really long time, because the first bike that I bought seriously, so to say, I bought at his company. He had his own motocross selling thing and also maintenance and stuff like that. And he was telling me always, "Yeah, I never have arm pump. I do not know what that is." He says,
Right,
"Never."
blimey.
And yeah, how is that possible, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, the thing is, of course, he must have had it in the past as well, but he cannot remember anymore because he has learned himself to, yeah, ride with such a flow that it doesn't happen, and he
yeah,
doesn't force it so much. Yeah, he can make stop and go corners and still not use too much energy in that.
okay,
That is like, And I sometimes I see him do that. Like, do you not get pain in the arms?
Yeah.
Why? He says it like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
yeah, and a lot of it I think is mental as well in regards to if you if you overthink stuff
yeah,
and
that could be it.
I've got quite a bad habit of kind of like holding on too tight.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I know that feeling, especially when it gets bumpy.
yeah, it's just trying to get that habit of making sure you keep your head forward and not lean back and
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it's very much a mental thing. But I find with me, I get better the more I ride.
Uh,
Um,
is that is
so uh,
is that not in general? I mean, the more you practice any sport or whatever, that you get better, or is there a plateau for every person?
no, I don't think so because I think even when you speak to the pro riders, they're
Mhm.
always going out training to improve and they're always
Yeah.
trying to improve. But I think it's the problem I find is our races are quite short.
Mhm.
So by the time you kind of get going, it's a little bit too late. So I find that generally the last race of the day is my better one
Oh,
because I've done that riding, my arms are used to it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think for when we do practice before the event, we only get like 4 laps of practice,
Oh, that
and
is
that's
really
it.
short.
Yeah, and then you go
And how
straight
long is
into
then
two
a
races.
lap? If
Um, so you're probably looking at about
2.5 or 2, something like that?
only about 1 minute 57, 1 minute 58.
Okay. Yeah, that is really short.
Um,
So it's 8 minutes of warming up.
yeah,
And is
and
that
then your
also
race.
then is that
So
also setting your starting point? So setting up the order of the starts, or I don't know
yeah,
how that
so
works.
we get 4 laps of practice.
Yeah.
So on that is you get two free laps and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
two timed laps,
Yeah, exactly.
and then obviously then that counts towards your first race gate position,
Yeah, exactly. That is what I
and
was
then your
looking for.
your your second and third races are based on your results.
Yeah, of the previous. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
But yeah,
Over
so
here
yeah,
in the Netherlands, what I've seen, it's also you do a practice, and indeed it's about 10 minutes. The practice. That's a little bit what we see here because also they want to do these races in the day, and then indeed the whole day is organized from the position where you were only doing the practice. So it doesn't matter
okay,
if you're the first, the second, or the third race. Now I've
yeah,
never seen that by the way over here. It's only 2 races,
yeah.
and then it's just yeah, depending on your time lapse, so to say, in the beginning.
Yeah, I think some people like there's another organization I ride at, and their practice is literally just practice.
Okay.
And then your first race they do, and I don't know if you've heard of this, where they pick pegs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's your first race, and then your second and third are your race result
Oh yeah.
positions. But
Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah, so yeah, they're quite. I think our races are only about 12 minutes plus a lap.
12 minutes plus 11.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not too bad. Um,
But for me, that sounds a little bit short because over here
mhm,
it is depending a little bit on the level that you ride. But for me, I'm an old guy, so for us normally it is 15 minutes and a lap.
okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
I think one of the organisations I ride at, I think theirs is 15 minutes plus a lap. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
but generally it can be anything around sort of the 10 to 12 minute
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
races.
exactly. Yeah, I've also had races where it is a little bit shorter, but okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I know now the answer, but that is because I get to know you a little bit better. Was there ever a moment that you considered, oh, now I'm going to quit because now if this and this happened, and I'm like, okay, is this really what I want to pursue further? Or
Um, I think I don't think I've had any thoughts about anything that's made me think about quitting. I think you do kind of, when you see a lot of bad injuries,
that was a little bit
you,
where I'm pointing at a
yeah,
little bit.
you kind of, I've seen a lot, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in the events that I'm doing. Even if you see it on GPs
Yeah.
or Supercross or whatever, you kind of just think, you know, it is only a hobby at the end of the day. But yeah, I could really hurt myself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of putting that balance in. Okay, when does it go from a hobby
Hmm.
to being dangerous. So it's kind of like, and that's, I think I
Oh,
touched on it earlier, where now I'm getting a bit older.
yeah.
Like I don't, in my group, there's riders that are probably 15, 16 years of age,
Hmm.
and you can see the
In the same group.
mentality difference in the same
Oh
group.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's ooh.
So they're like, they have no worries.
No,
They're
it's
just
full
flat
on.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but then there's like a group of us. I laugh with some of my friends, is that there's like I think we generally have about 30 to 40 riders in each race.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've got like 15 young kids,
Yeah.
and then you've got all us rest oldies. So we all like catch up with each other in the race and have our own little battles, and it's really good fun, and
Yeah.
we have a really good time. But yeah, it's when you do see, it's particularly on race days as well, when you see people have these crashes, you're just a bit like, wow.
Okay.
And it does, and I think it does play on your mind a little bit.
Yeah. No, but I think every, let's say, healthy person would always have something like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? If
Yeah,
I tell my colleagues about these things, that crashes, etc., that happens, then they say, why do you do this?
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but
they're like,
I guess you could do any hobby and be injured and get hurt, couldn't you? I mean,
that's
it's
also what I say. I say, oh, you can go to the movies because that is a very safe hobby. And then you
yeah,
walk out on the street and bam,
yeah,
it's the end of your life.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so difficult trying to find that fine line.
Yeah. So
Um,
I
but
always
yeah,
say, yeah, so many things that can go wrong in life.
yeah, I think
Why?
my mindset is that when I stop having fun and I find it like a chore,
Yeah.
that's when I stop,
Okay.
because you're not committed, you're not thinking about it, and but yeah.
So how are we going time wise?
Oh, blimey, I think it's has it been an
I know
hour?
how late it is, but it's more like, can we keep up or should we stop?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what time is it now? Yeah, we can go a bit more if you want. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, for me it's okay. I
yeah.
don't have to wake up early in the morning, so for me it's
No,
great.
that's fine. It's still not too late here. What time is it now? 8:30 here. So yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's go a little bit further. So different types of tracks. So I don't know how many different types of tracks that you have in your area, and how does it look like? If you have a
Um,
favorite type of track, if you have that, I don't know.
yeah. So like I said earlier, there's a bit of a struggle with tracks in
Yeah.
our area at the moment.
Hmm.
So a, s- a couple of the tracks that we use are for circuits that have been around for many, many years.
Yeah.
So they're quite worn out, quite stony.
Stony. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we like almost like flinty type stone.
Okay.
And the fair play to the track crew and organisers, they try and put fresh soil on, but it,
Hmm.
it soon it soon wears away.
Yeah. It's plowed
Yeah,
around. So and how deep must it go? Huh?
yeah, definitely. So when those sort of tracks, when they get, and I think my moto touch, when they get wet,
Yeah.
they're really awkward to ride.
Yeah.
But
Because
when
they
they're
put
dry,
the soil on or what?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then when they're dry, it's difficult because they're really slippery.
Yeah.
Um, so, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think,
I seen quite some videos of what is it, 99 laser,
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes I think, oh, what is he
yeah,
driving? A sort of
yeah,
slippery track. I'm like, oh, how can we drive this?
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. A lot of I think if you can kind of, from probably around about, say, let's say 2 or 3 hour drive from me, the tracks are a little better.
Okay.
Um, but so for example, Landrake, where AJ is coming to
Hmm.
next month,
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best tracks in the southwest where I
Okay.
live. You know, they prepare that really well. They don't overuse it, and they do actually this year have a round of the British Championship there this year.
Wow. But yeah, you
Um,
say it's a good track, so that is probably not a bad reason, or that is
yeah,
probably the reason why they do it, or not.
yeah, and and a lot of the riders, they enjoy going there because it is quite natural, and it's quite good soil. So
Hmm.
but yeah, sort of, and I think, like I say, my Moto touched on this on your last podcast, is like where it's like clay type tracks.
Hmm.
You know, they're nice to ride because they are really grippy and
Grippy,
you can
yeah,
get
yeah.
away with things a little bit more.
No,
Um,
okay. Oh, good. I think you touched this already for my reason, but I didn't know, so I put this question up: weekend warrior or racer? I hear you say race a lot, so
yeah,
you race a lot then.
yeah. So we race probably, well, we say a lot. It's
Oh,
probably twice a month.
no.
Um, so there's normally towards summertime you might do 3 a month,
Okay.
um, but it's not generally too bad.
And is it because over here you have different organization doing these, yeah,
Yeah,
organization of races? Is that also in UK?
we have. There's normally used to be like 3 or 4 different organisations
Oh, yeah,
or clubs, sorry, that would
yeah,
run,
yeah, yeah.
and it's really difficult for them because they're trying not to clash with each other.
Yeah, that's
Um,
yeah. Over
but
here the same. Yeah.
yeah, but I think this year I think there's only 2 main series that are running.
I
So
think it's better, but is it um, because I know that there's several things that I could do, for instance, but I know when I started riding, somebody said, "Oh, you should have to do races and you have to do these and these type of race." I don't know. It's the region where I live. They have
mm,
quite some motocross tracks, and they have also an organization who does all the motocross races organized, and they have, I think, starting from March, every weekend race
yeah.
until I don't know, end of July or something,
Oh, okay.
until the normal holiday starts here.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, and
it's got a lot.
people when they start that they commit to that, so they really start, and even with bad weather, and then it's every weekend, pam pam
Yeah,
pam pam going on.
yeah. I
I'm like,
think like
oh,
I think over here that if you wanted to ride every weekend, you could,
okay,
but
race, huh?
it's there. Yeah, but there would be quite a bit of traveling involved, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is,
Um,
but yeah, we talked about it already. I live in the Netherlands. That's even now. What is it? 1/4 of the UK,
yeah,
and probably if you talk about your area, um, yeah, I think if I travel from this side to that side of the area that I talk about where they organize it, I think it is maybe max 2 hours, 2.5 hours
oh,
ride.
okay, yeah,
And it's more the length comes if it is in a small village somewhere far away, somewhere outside remote, because that
yeah,
is
yeah,
then where it goes slow, where you go up, down, left, right until you're there where you're supposed to be.
yeah.
But on, let's say, on the highway, 2 3 hours and you're there,
Right,
max,
okay.
max.
So do you have many practice tracks over there, or
Yeah, I think compared to if I, for instance, hear about AJ talking about it, I think we have quite a number of tracks per square mile or
yeah, yeah,
kilometer, we use here, of course. So in that respect, yes. But if you look at, let's say, the size of the track, we all have, I would say, fairly small tracks
okay,
in size. So
yeah,
they're not really. We of course do not have hills, so we do not have a nice up and down things.
yeah,
It's only man-made if it goes up and down. Yeah, and
okay,
then you have that story of, do we have enough soil to make very big step ups or stuff like that? And yeah,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
so. I would say beautiful tracks. No, you do not need to go to the Netherlands,
yeah.
but in itself, there's quite some tracks in the Netherlands, because I've never done all the tracks in the Netherlands because I would be busy for, I don't know, at least 2 years or something
Oh,
to
right,
do
okay,
that.
blimey.
Yeah, that's really a lot of tracks, and especially also in the north where it's not so much populated. There's also quite some tracks,
Yeah,
but yeah, I never
yeah,
go there because then I have to drive. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, and yeah, I do not do that to drive.
yeah. That's the only problem is like I don't like going too far because by the time you've driven 2 or 3 hours and then ride all day and then have to drive another 2 or 3 hours home, it's
Yeah, exactly. Huh?
it's really
It's
difficult.
not. Yeah, it is for every person different, I would say, because
Yeah,
I think when I was in the USA, there was a guy indeed who drove 3 hours to be there. I'm like,
okay,
whoa, 3 hours to be here, and he
yeah,
also went away at, I don't know, after a few hours. I said, oh, are you leaving already? Are you already tired or something? No,
yeah,
no, but I have to go home, and then I see my wife and child, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you have to still drive 3 hours back. Oh yeah,
yeah. No, it's so much, isn't it? It's
yeah.
just yeah, it's quite a bit. I think there's one track that we ride this year that from my house it's probably, I want to say, kind of like two and a bit hours, 2 hours 15, something like that. And
Hmm.
even that, I'm a bit like, so then like,
Yeah, it's a long
because
ride. Huh?
we don't have a camper, so we
Oh,
have to get up on the morning. So we leave home at, say, sort of 4:15, 4:45 in the morning,
wow.
to get there in time for signing on and practice. And then if you finish at, say, 5:30 in the afternoon, then you've still got that long drive home.
Long drive home. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, that yeah,
that's
the
really long.
traveling's not so good.
Yeah. If you like the podcast, please give the thumbs up. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you like this part, please stick around while YouTube will link you automatically to the next part of this episode.